Hello everyone and welcome to the 19th episode of the 8th series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today with us a name that needs no introduction, the legendary Jeff Hakman. We discuss with him about surfboards, surf contest and much more. Good afternoon, Mr. Hakman. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Hello, Alessandro. I'm in France. I'm in just south of Biarritz, in a little town called Bida.
Fantastic. So Bida, now there are like the good waves. The storm is over. We're back on track, right?
Yes. Well, yes and no. Like Saturday and Sunday was fantastic. It was really nice surf. It's like summer, and then today it's raining again. So,
Okay.
2 days good, 1 day bad.
It's always raining a bit in France, but then the sun always come up. So we hope also for today or these days. But we're not here to talk about weather, maybe, but we're here to talk about surf. So the first question that I ask everyone on the show is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
You wouldn't believe how much time I spent on this question. It's a simple question, but there's so many directions you can go, and it's, I could answer like fun for sure. Surfing, fun's very important. I could answer some other directions, but if I'm going to be very, very honest, I think for myself, memories are really important. Really, really important in surfing. And my advice is to anyone is to do something extraordinary so you'll remember it, so you'll have a memory, because kind of whatever we do today in 20, 30 years from now, nobody knows about it. So nobody gives a shit. So if you have your own memories of something that are entrenched in your memory banks, that's really, really valuable. So whatever it takes to do that, it can be a good wipeout, it can be a fabulous tube, it can be, a huge air, whatever, but memories are really important. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and memories also are part of the transmissions of memories to other people in a certain way, like we are doing today in the show. It's important, to make your memories the memories of the people around you. That can be your friends, your family, but also large for the people that you influence in a way or another in your life. Don't you agree?
Yes, very important. Yeah, so surfing's it's complicated. It's not an easy thing, and it changes with different generations. It's like in the 50s, surfing was kind of an anti-establishment thing. Like people were putting swastikas on their boards and pulling down their pants in the tube to do brown eyes, and it was a whole drop out and kind of anti-establishment thing. Then in the 70s, it was like it was very, very important to have style and to have your own unique approach. Today, it's the emphasis seems to be on extreme gymnastic moves in the surf, and style has taken a little bit of a back seat. So, yeah, it does change with different generations,
Definitely. The glue of all of that should be the surf culture, right? That while everything, the sport improves and gets better and better, the way we approach surfing should stay the same, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, but it hasn't. in my
Okay.
opinion, it hasn't. So, which is neither good or bad. It's just changed. The one thing that doesn't change are, the waves. The waves, and I was telling you before, like when I think back on my history, I don't really think about any of the contests or the results or the achievements in the surfing industry or any of that. What I think about is individual, beautiful waves.
Definitely.
I think that's what's really important. If that's the case, are where it all started from is the waves. The waves are everything.
Yes, definitely. They allow us to surf. So, and they are uh, example of what nature can create in bad, in good or bad. And definitely today we're gonna talk about some of the ways of your life. But before we jump into the ways, because I'm very interested about surfboards, I'm very interested to know your first proper surfboard, if you remember it, and I'm also interested to know if you still have it.
Okay, I definitely do not have it. My first surfboard was a 711 Dale Valsey solid balsa wood board. I don't know how much fiberglass it had on it, but it weighed 32 pounds. It was straight. It had a round bottom. It had a wood fin. It was absolutely horrible. It made it very difficult for me to get into surfing, to begin to get into surfing. And back in the 50s, kind of the middle 50s, it wasn't that easy for young people to start surfing because just for this reason, the equipment was really bad. I mean, wasn't that good for, like normal people, but for little people just starting, it was very, very difficult. The equipment was horrible. And my father bought me this board for $25, and he wanted me to surf so much that he took me out on a day at Palos Verdes Cove that was way out of control. And we sort of didn't realize it until we were out there, but I ended up paddling over backwards on about an 8-foot wave, almost drowned. There was 2 or 3 waves in back of it, and my father was busy paddling over the waves himself. So anyway, after this experience, I came into the beach, and I didn't want to know about surfing at all. I was scared. I was discouraged, and I basically just gave the board back to my father and told him I didn't want to know about it. Yeah, it was hard. It was really hard with the equipment back then.
But then you went
yeah,
back, right?
then about my father kept trying to get me to go back out again, and I didn't want to know about it. He finally, what happened is he was so determined. He was really good craftsman. He made boats, and he had built a few boards. So he got this really fantastic, really blonde grain, light grain female balsa wood, glued it up, and made this 7'11", 20-inch wide little round tail board that was only about 14 or 15 pounds. And he was going, okay, Jeff, come on, let's try it. I made you a new board. I've done everything I can. Please try it. Please try it. Please try it. So after months and months of trying to convince me to try it again, I finally accepted. And we went out to Palos Verdes Cove again. I think it must have been about 1957. And it was a spring day, a early fall day, like kind of around the middle of September. It was sunny, and the surf was about 3-4 feet. So he got me out there, and he lined me up. He sort of picked the wave for me. He told me to start paddling, and I paddled. I kind of got into it, and then it was a right, and I just turned, locked the rail in, and the thing just peeled perfectly, just like it couldn't have been better. Anyway, I pulled out at the end, and I was just so stoked. I mean, my eyes, I don't know, they must have looked like huge alarm clocks or something. And I remember that wave so well. And that was it. Just took one wave, and I was totally just hooked, totally stoked.
And which year was that?
1957.
So,
sorry. That was, about 1957, 1958.
Wow, you still remember? That's amazing. And from that to win your first important contest, that was the Duke contest, it was like only matter of a few years, 7 years, and you were ready into the big names with the big guys.
Yeah, well, a lot happened after that.
Sure.
Really a lot. Kind of fast track.
That was 1965, isn't it?
Yep.
The first win at the Duke contest.
Yeah, that was the first Duke contest in 1965.
How was the Duke? We all hear the tales of the Duke, but you lived and you had the opportunity to meet him. So how was this meeting with him?
The very first time I met the Duke was when I won the Duke contest, which was 1965. And we had a big presentation of the award ceremony at the Waikiki Shell. And there was like, really, literally, there's like thousands of people there. And it was a pretty big deal. And Duke sort of handed me, congratulated me, gave me a big hug, and he was really stoked. So I was the smallest guy in the contest by a long ways, the youngest and the smallest. And Duke was, I guess, really proud that I won. But anyway, I got to know Duke a little bit there, not that well, but a little bit. He would have been probably about 64, 65 years old. Oh, sorry, 74, 75 years old. And then after that, shortly after that, I don't know how many months, but I was invited to his 75th birthday at his own nightclub where Don Ho played and the Alihis, and Kima McVeigh was sort of taking care of Duke then, and he was the finance and the promoter behind the nightclub, and was looking after Duke in his later years. So I was invited to this event, and I remember walking in. It was in the International Marketplace in the back of Waikiki, and I walked in, and there was this big sort of white covered object in the middle of the restaurant. It was a big restaurant. That was Duke's present, and later they unveiled it, and it was a brand new '65 Silver Cloud Rolls Royce, which was pretty impressive. But I got to be able to talk to Duke at that party, and he was fantastic. He was powerful. He was quiet, silent, confident. He had a lot of humility and a lot of charisma. He was pretty funny too. He had a great sense of humor. But yeah, I think in just a few words, Duke was charismatic, very good-looking, handsome man, and quiet, very quiet.
Incredible. If a person like him still lives today, before at the beginning we were talking about memories, right? He still lives today in the memories of all the surfers, in documentaries, in stories and tales. Definitely, he did a lot for a lot of people, right? For the surf culture. So,
well, I'll give you an example. When he died, I don't know if you've ever been to Waikiki or that area, but
yeah,
when Duke died, which was I forget the month in 1968, they had this, I guess, sort of a funeral on the ocean, and they basically closed down all of Waikiki. Like you couldn't drive into Waikiki. They closed down the whole place. They had probably over 50 outrigger canoe clubs in the water. I don't know how many lays. There was so much love and respect for that man that you could see it with his funeral. It was magnificent. I mean, it was like I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I saw some in the documentary that has been recently released about the Duke. There are some images about that scene in Waikiki. So yes, I can picture what you're describing. So it's quite impressive. So now, before we were talking about, actually, you were talking about waves. What was the best wave of your life, if you can share with us, or the most memorable one? Doesn't have.
Yeah, there's been a few. I've had I mean, you can imagine in 67 years, I've had quite a few waves in quite a few different countries and islands and everything you can imagine. But when I was 13 years old, Dick Brewer had just made me my first gun. It was a 9-foot, 9.2 Brewer board, Brewer gun. It was probably about 19 inches wide, 19 and a quarter inches wide. And, I had been, starting to surf Sunset Beach a bit, And anyway, this one afternoon, I think it was around December, my father and I drove out from Honolulu after school and after he got off work, and we had a sort of a Volkswagen bus, a Volkswagen camper. We drove out to Honolulu, drove out to North Shore and pulled up at the beach, and the surf was glassy. And if you've ever been to the North Shore, when it's really glassy and big, there's sort of a mist in the air. There's actually mist from the big surf in the air around the shore. We pulled up and Fred Van Dyke was on the beach, and he told us, he said, "Hey, it's too big, it's way too big." It's like, well, I mean, it's starting to break. There's sets closing out. And my father and I were going, well, we drove all the way out here. We're going out. So we paddled out through the rip, and the rip was like a river. It was very difficult to figure out where to sit. It was big, 15 foot, 18 foot. And you had to kind of sneak him into the zone to catch a wave. But then if a bigger set came, you had to get out of the way because you would get caught inside, and we didn't have leashes or anything. So you'd have to swim. Plus, on top of that, the sun was going down. So it was, we didn't have much time. So my father was sort of in the channel, and I actually paddled in deep because it was a big west swell, and I paddled in deep into the lineup to try to get one of these monsters. And so I'm in there. This set comes, and I paddle over the first one, and it's like a huge horseshoe cradle bowl, and it's just the two sides of the horseshoe are coming together and converging to this immense peak. And so I paddle over that one, and here's another one, the second one bigger. I had to make a decision, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna hold my ground and turn around and try to catch this thing, or I'm gonna paddle over it. Everything in my body wanted to paddle over it because it was breathing, and it was converging, and it was like water's going up into the vortex. And I think I was like 65, 70 pounds, and I'm trying to catch this thing. So it was a big, how can I explain this? It was a really crossroads in my life, a decision that at the time, it could have, quite honestly, if I would have come off my board, I probably would have drowned. It was that big. And it was a thing where you have to face yourself and face your fears and go, well, I'm going to do this, even though I sort of don't really think it's the smartest thing to do. Anyway, long story short, I was paddling forward and paddling, and I started to get in it and penetrate. And then it jacked up so much, I found myself like at the top, sort of free falling, and I fell. My board landed, and I somehow stayed on it. And then as soon as it engaged again, I was pulled back up the face, so with the water moving up, and I sort of fell again, and then landed, and then kind of pointed it, straight down into the pit, and kind of, connected my fin and kind of got on a rail and kind of continued the ride, and then made it around and went down the wall a bit, and then out on the edge of this big, huge peak. Got down on my knees and paddled like hell to get out of the lineup so I wouldn't get cleaned out. So that was really an important wave for me because, as I said, I made the decision to hold my ground and go for it, where I could have just as easily just paddled over it. And so I definitely remember that one. There was another one much later on in life. I think the year was 96, and I was on Kauai. And I had just gotten over there, and Hanalei Bay was big. It was big west 15-foot Hanalei Bay, and I didn't have a proper board. So Dick Brewer, who was my friend, lived up in the back of Princeville, and I went up to his house and said, Dick, you got any good guns laying around? I need a board for Hanalei. It's really serious. And he goes, yep, I got one right here. It's 10 foot. I don't know if it was 9, 10 or 10 foot, but he goes, Jeff, this one's really good. You can use it. So I grabbed it, paddled out, and I got sort of about a 10-foot wave in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. And I'm paddling back out, and then I'm sort of pretty far out the back and further out than anyone else. And there's just immense, 15-foot just wedging, sucking. In fact, to get out to it, I was paddling downhill. The water was sucking off the reef so much, I was paddling downhill to get to it. And then I swung around and got into it. And at Hanalei, you have to do this high line. So you can't go down to the bottom and do a bottom turn like Sunset. You have to kind of get your line going because it's such a long wall. So I have my line going. I'm at the top of the upper part of the wave, the upper third of the wave, like trimming as fast as I can to make it through this thing. And then because it was outside, all these people are paddling up the face and throwing their boards. And, so this one guy threw his board right in my track. So I had to hit my inside rail and go down and around it. And then by the time I sort of leveled out, I was really low on this monster. And I started to run out of speed. And I'm still going as fast as I can, but relative to the wave, I'm going back into the tube. So I'm low and I'm getting sucked back into this tube. And I feel like, oh my God, I better take a big breath of air because I'm going to get smacked. So big breath of air and kind of widened my legs a little bit and got more solid. And I'm holding on and holding on and holding on until I need another breath of air. So I let that air out. I get another breath and I'm still in the same position. I haven't changed positions at all. So I'm hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, hanging on, and hanging on until I need another breath of air. So let that one out. I take a third breath of air and I'm holding that, holding that, holding that. And then pretty soon I'm in the channel about 300 meters later. And it was absolutely amazing because I didn't do one turn and it was the best wave of my life. It was the most incredible positioning and unbelievably perfect wave of my life.
Fantastic. But it looks like your best waves are also the most dangerous ones.
Well, I was living in Hawaii at the time, so like the waves you're going to be impressed with are the most hollow or the biggest. So that's that.
And you were talking about Waimea, and of course that is a legendary wave because so many surfers had the opportunity to surf it those years. And Greg Knoll, for instance, it became into every kind of image of big wave surfing. And one thing that people are saying today is that Waimea maybe was not that big. So since you were living those years, what can you tell us? Waimea was what it is everybody describes, or compared to today was a small wave? I know the answer, but I like to hear it from you.
Okay, so back in that 50 years ago, which is the time you're talking about, Waimea Bay was the Mount Everest of surfing. There was no Mavericks, there was no Jaws, there was no Chopu, there was no Nazare. I mean, that was it. That was the final testing ground, Waimea Bay. And like any spot, I mean, doesn't matter Nazare or Mavericks or whatever, you have the way that there's different moods. You can have smaller swells, bigger swells, bigger intervals, less intervals, whatever. So yeah, there are soft days at Waimea Bay. There definitely are soft days, but there are really severe days, like treacherous days. And just one comes to mind was the 1974 Smirnoff contest at Waimea Bay. I think the actual day, the surf report was 20 feet, 22 seconds. And I remember it well because I was trying to practice early because I wanted to do good because I needed rent money and I had to make sure I did good in the event. So I got to the lineup in the corner there at Waimea Bay real early, like just on light. And I snuck out through the little shore break somehow. It was very easy. And I got out to the break, and as it was getting light, and I was the only one out, I was just by myself. So I lined up where you normally line up, kind of just outside the boil a ways. And, a good wave, a good set came, 20, 25 foot set came, and I got one wave and it was really good. And by the way, the conditions were they could not be better, like 5-knot offshore wind, beautiful northwest, perfect direction, immaculate. It looked like corduroy going out to sea for 2 miles, just perfect lines, like immense. Anyway, this huge set came and I was going, oh my God, I better get further out because it's way much further out. And as I'm paddling out, I'm looking to my right, and anyone that surfed Waimea, to the right's like the point, and then up by the old fire station is all these rocks and stuff. And as I'm paddling over these things, I'm looking into these tubes that are like 40-foot tubes. And I mean, you could drive a Big Mac truck through the tubes, through the barrels, and it probably wouldn't get wet. And I'm paddling out to sea and paddling out. And then I look, I'm finally there's no more waves. It sort of subsides. And I'm looking back at me, and the whole bay is white. There's no channel. It's just closed out. It's just immense, 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 immense. So I let everything settle down and then paddle back in. And the first guy that came out was Sammy Hawk. He came out. He was also in the contest back then. This is like 74. And he's going, "Oh, Jeff, I saw that one wave you got, man. What a great set. That was good, you know?" I'm going, "Sammy, believe me, that was not a set, man. There's waves out here twice that big." And he looked at me like, "What? What are you talking about?" You know. Anyway, another one of these sets came, you know, this is about half hour later. And we're just paddling over the things. And I mean, in that time in history, these waves were not rideable. You know, maybe today they are, you know. It starts to approach like it doesn't matter how fit you are or how good of a surfer you are. It's kind of like putting a fly in a toilet and flushing it. You know, there's so much water moving around that it doesn't matter if you're super fly, man. You're going with the water, you know. And that's how this morning was. You're going with the water. Wherever the water's going, that's where you're going. Anyway, so that was the biggest I've ever seen any surf on the North Shore, and the most perfect. I have seen it bigger, but not that perfect. So to answer your question, I believe that on its given day, Waimea can still pretty much be serious.
Definitely. And you won that Smirnov contest, right?
No.
No. Okay.
I didn't win. I kind of think I should have.
It looks like.
But after the surf dropped 10 feet, because they canceled the contest in the morning because it was too big. And then at 10 o'clock or so, Fred Hemmings, who was the contest director, said, "Okay, it's dropped. We can hold the contest." So the surf dropped 10 feet from the morning, and it was still 30 feet. It was a magnificent day, the best competitive event I've ever been in my life. It was just spectacular, like the wipeouts, the rides. And I will say the semifinals, there was two semifinals. Reno Abalira was in the first semifinal, and I was in the second semifinal, sitting in the channel, waiting for his semifinal to finish. And I did see Reno take off on one wave, a beautiful wave, and the board dropped under his feet, dropped about 3 or 4 foot under his feet, and he fell on top. He dropped. It's kind of just like a stick man dropped, landed on his board, hit the inside rail, released, made it down the face, and pulled it around the section and made the wave. And I just went, "Oh my God, that was really freaking lucky, man. Really, really lucky." And then about 10 minutes later, he got another wave and did the exact same thing. And I couldn't believe it. It was like, I was just going, that's just like unbelievable, man. Anyway, that was the semifinal. And Reno surf just magnificent. Like, I've never seen anyone surf Waimea Bay better. And then in the final, I thought I actually surfed a little bit better, but Reno won and I got second. I think there was like a half point or quarter point difference or something, you know. But I will say that day, Reno was the man.
Okay, yeah, it happens, you know. As long as you win them all.
Yeah,
Sometimes
that was Reno's day. He was surfing in another dimension.
And talking about waves, I would like to go back to 1971 for the first Pipeline Masters that you won, right?
Right.
What do you remember of the waves that day? Was something particular, or?
Well, to begin with, it wasn't normal. It wasn't the best pipeline you can have. It wasn't like 10-foot west swell pipeline and big left tubes. It had some north in the swell that day, so there was rights. Like, there was more peaks and rights, and it was about 6 feet, 7 feet, and it was pretty spur of the moment. You know, I don't know. I think Fred Hemmings just decided at the last minute to have it that day, and so there was 8 of us in it, and we were all on the beach, and I think there was a card table and a loudspeaker and 2 chairs, and so it was. It was nothing like today's Pipeline Masters as far as the the beach thing, you know. I mean, you could park, you
Yeah,
can, you could walk down the beach okay and everything. But it was pretty much the best guys at the time were in the event. I mean, Billy Hamilton, Jock Sutherland, Jerry was invited, and Jerry sort of there was some miscommunication there where Jerry thought it wasn't on and it was on, or something happened, so Jerry didn't show up, unfortunately. But there were some good waves. I had two or three really good waves, and it was serious. You know, there's never a contest that you're in on the North Shore that's not serious. So in the water definitely wasn't casual, but the beach scene was, you know, not very sophisticated. But I was very proud to win it, and everybody in the event was very proud to have been invited.
definitely. Legendary contest, nowadays, even one of the most important one, if not the most important one of the whole tour. Then obviously people can prefer one or the other. But if we go to classic, definitely Pipeline Masters is the greatest of all, in my opinion. And then anybody can have different ones, of course. In your life, you met hundreds, thousands of amazing surfers. Some of them very well known, some of them not known. Let's say. Was there a meeting with one of them that was particularly meaningful for you?
I think when I was about 12, 13 years old, I was sort of surfing Sunset. I was surfing Makaha a lot because that's when my family first moved to Hawaii. That's where we were living, Makaha Point. So I was surfing Makaha Point quite a bit, and I saw, because the main event back then was the Makaha Championships, the international Makaha contest. So I saw quite a few good surfers coming to Makaha from California, from Australia, from Hawaii, and everything. So I kind of had a pretty good idea of some of the best talent in the world and everything. And then I started going to Sunset Beach and Haleiwa, because those were sort of the first two places people started surfing back in the very early 60s, 61, 62, and there. And my dream was to surf Sunset Beach well, because 5 or 6 years before, I'd seen movies at the Pier Avenue Auditorium in Hermosa Beach of these legends like Greg Knoll and Mike Stang and Buzzy Trent and Peter Cole and stuff surfing Waimea Bay or Sunset Beach. And these, you know, huge drops and everything. And it made such an impression on me. I was going, oh, that's my dream. I want to surf those places. I want to surf Sunset Beach, Waimea Bay, but I definitely want to surf Sunset Beach like these guys, you know? So I'm sitting on the beach, you know, I was starting to sort of go out a little bit, but not on big days, on sort of smaller days and stuff. And so I used to sit on the beach and study the surfers, the better surfers at Sunset Beach. And there was a few. There was Paul Gebauer, John Peck back then, Kealoha Kaiho. There was a few pretty good surfers, but there was one surfer that was way, way above everybody, and his name was Paul Stroud Jr.
Oh.
And I feel he was sort of at his prime in around 62, 63. And that's when I was watching him on the beach, you know. And I remember he had this 10-2 or 10-4 balsa gun. And he would just run this thing down into the pit at sunset on 10-foot waves, and he'd roll it out of a turn with all this momentum and velocity. And it was so cool. He surfed like a cat, you know, and then he'd just fire it on a 90-degree turn straight up the face. And then he kind of had this really cool roundhouse rotation cutback that he did, which was very, very advanced for the time. The only other guy that had a bottom turn close to that, but was probably like 8 or 9 years later, was Barry Kanayapuni. So anyway, Paul Stroud was who I looked to and wanted to emulate his surfing at Sunset Beach. So, and then also on the land, he was a real gentleman. He was a very good-looking guy. He was polite. He was courteous. He was elegant. He was elegant in and out of the water. So Paul Stroud Jr. impressed me the most in those years.
Thank you for sharing. Before you were talking about Dick Brewer. How was the relationship between you and him?
Dick Brewer was responsible for me surfing big waves, totally, 100%. Because, as I said, back in those years, that to get good equipment was difficult, and especially for a young guy. And Dick made me a 711 711 board, just like a longboard, but miniature for me because I was only 70 pounds. And I went out to Sunset one December, and I was out there with the boys like Buzzy Trent, Peter Cole, George Downing, Kealoha, Kimo Hollinger, all the crew, all the guys that were good. And it was 10 to 12 foot. And I caught this one wave. It was like 10 foot. And I'm coming down it and everything. And my board just wobbled out, just did a speed wobble because it had too much hip. It wasn't a gun, it was too wide in the tail. So I just sort of spun out, plopped in the face, and thought I was going to drown. Then I had to, it took me about an hour to get in through the rip. I didn't know what I was doing and everything. Anyway, that was traumatic. But Dick Brewer was also out there, and he saw me on that wave, and he went, "Well, that little guy had some balls, man. He took off, he did everything right, but his board spun out." So he goes, "You know what? I'm going to make that little guy a gun, a gun proportion down for his size." And so anyway, Dick made me a gun. It was 9 foot, maybe 9'2", I forget. He just, with that board, I could surf big waves. It was like just magic. It just made it like from going from difficult to like a cakewalk. So Dick Brewer started with that board, and then all through the 60s and early 70s, I had Dick Brewer boards, and he was the best shaper on the planet to me.
Definitely. Legendary one. And very well respected by not only the shapers, but the surfers and the population around him and friends. So definitely. Okay. We talk about waves, we talk about surfboards, we talk about surf, you as a surfer, the Duke. So I guess, like we cover quite of a big part of your life, though. I have still 6 quick questions for you before we conclude the interview. So please answer the first thing that comes up to your mind, okay? The best surfboard that you ever rode?
Okay, easy. Little bit of a long story. Do you want the short version or long version?
The long one. The long one. I like the long stories.
Okay. 1971, Dick Brewer made a board for David Nuiva, who is a very famous Hawaiian surfer, very good on the nose and everything. And David had, for the time, really an impressive sponsorship program with Bing Surfboards. He came to Hawaii, and he ordered a 711 gun from Dick Brewer, for Pipeline and for Sunset and stuff. And so Dick made him this board. And then when he was finished, he said, "Okay, pay me for it, and David just goes, "Hey, Dick, I don't pay for surfboards, And Dick went, "Oh, okay." Well, so he gave the board to Jack Reeves, who has been probably the best glasser in Hawaii for 40 years. And he gave it to Jack Reeves to glass. Anyway, Jack Reeves glassed the thing and paid Dick for the shape job and just kept it. And then he had a friend of his staying with him by the name of Greg Tucker. Greg Tucker borrowed the board one day and was out at Sunset Beach. And Greg and I and a couple other guys were out at Sunset. It was kind of 8 foot, 9 foot sunset. And I had kind of a new board that I was trying out. Somehow we swapped boards. Greg goes, "Hey, you want to try this one? I'll try that one." So we swapped boards. And this pretty good set came in, and I just took off on that board and that Greg lent me. And I mean, it was in another dimension. I mean, it was like butter. It was like butter on ball bearings, and just, you could turn with your ears, you just sort of lean a little bit, and the rail would engage, and it would just spin out of just like spiral out of a turn with speed. And anyway, it was just, I was going, whoa. did I just really feel what I felt? Was that really that good? So I instantly paddled back out and I got another wave, and it even was better. And then I got one more, and it was even better. And about this time, Greg Tucker goes, Jeff, I want my board back now. so I gave him the board back, and I paddled in, and I went up to Dick Brewer, and I went, Dick, you got to make me a board like that. Can you make me a board like that? Just like that. Don't change the thing, And Dick goes, yep, I'll do it just the same. So he makes another one like that, glasses it, but this whole process takes about 3 weeks because things weren't quick back then to get glass and everything. So I get this new board, and I'm so stoked. Go out and I surf Sunset. Not even close. Not even close. So I come back in and I go, Dick, hey, thanks, but hey, ain't the same. So he goes, okay, I'll try one more. So he does another one, and makes a few changes on it and stuff. Same thing. About a month later, I take it out. I'm all stoked. Try it out. Not even close. So I come back to Dick and I go, no. I go, Dick, help me get the original one from Jack Reeves, So Dick goes, okay. So he goes to Jack and he goes, Jack, help Jeff out here. He really likes that board. That board, he really loves that board. Will you sell it to him, And Jack goes, nope, I'm not selling it. Not selling it, And I'm going, oh man, And Dick, I go, Dick, God, what do I do? What do I do? So Dick goes back to him. He goes, Jack, listen, I'll give you 2 brand new boards for that one, And Jack finally goes, okay, all right. Yeah, okay. I don't really want to sell it, but I'll do it, So I got the board. So I have the board and I'm so stoked. And it was just, it was a magic board, It was just, I don't know what it was. We tried to copy it, but it wasn't the same. I think I won one hang 10 on it, or maybe 2 hang 10 contests, and got second in a Smirnoff. Anyway, the board was just phenomenal. But then it started getting older, started getting sort of, after 2 or 3 years, started to get yellow. The deck was denting a little bit and stuff. And I was still surfing it, but I thought I could because it was getting old, I thought I could replace it. So a friend of mine, Joey Smoot, who's living with me, he goes, hey, Jeff, you want to sell it? I'll give you $300 right now, which $300 was quite a bit for a board back then. And so I went, okay, Joey, I'll sell it to you. And then I got some other boards made. And then I realized that they weren't as good. So I went to back to Joey Smoot, and I said, Joey, sell me the board back. Come on, sell me the board back. And he goes, nope, I'm not going to sell it back. But he goes, tell you what I'll do. I'll lend it to you. On a commission basis on your contest wins. So God. I want 20%. I think it was 20%. I want 20% of your earnings, And I went, you're kidding. And he goes, no, that's the deal. So anyway.
Oh my God.
I think Joey, I don't know how much, he got quite a bit of money, because I won 2 or 3 contests on it, and he got 20% of everything. So he got way more than the board was worth.
Well, definitely.
And then after that, I said, hey, Joey, come on, man. You made money on it. Give me the board back, sell me the board back. So he finally sold it back to me, I think, for $300. And I was using it in a Duke contest, and Paul Nielsen was a good friend of mine and from Australia, and he asked if he could use it. I said, yeah, Paul, you can use it. I'll let you use it. So Paul used it in his heat, and I had to go somewhere, and I came back, and Paul said, hey, Jeff, I'm sorry, your board's gone. And I'm going, what do you mean my board's gone? He said, it floated out to sea in the rip. I didn't see it. It's gone. I went, like, just gone? And he goes, gone, and I went, oh my God, So anyway, that was my magic board.
Fantastic story. Thank you for sharing. So,
yeah.
From board to surfboard shaper, who's your favorite surfboard shaper of all time?
Well, Dick Brewer, I really owe a lot to, because, as I said, he got me started in big waves. I owe really a lot to Dick Brewer. Okay. But I also owe a lot to Tom Parrish, who I've worked with. I've been in the shaving bay with him on, I don't even know how many hours, but Tom and I ended up doing a model with lightning bolt, and it was a Hakman Parish Hawaiian design model in the early 70s, like Rabbit, Ian Cans, PT, all the Australians at the time, the good Australians were getting boards from Tom Parish. One of the reasons for that is because Tom and I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours in the shaping bay working together. Like, I would explain to him what you needed at sunset, and he was so good because he was just he wasn't blocked by any preconceived notions. He would just go, "Okay, Jeff, is that what we do? Yeah, okay, let's do it." In fact, one time I asked Tom, I said I had to get a board from him for a contest, and he did the whole thing in 24 hours. He shaped it, glassed it, 24 hours. I took it out to sunset, tried it, went, no good. We got to do another one. And he just went, okay, let's do another one. So Tom's work ethic was fantastic. And Tom and I have a lot of good memories of designing boards together on the North Shore in those early 70s.
Fantastic. What's your favorite song or favorite kind of music?
When I was younger, like in the 60s, growing up, I really liked Bob Dylan. I loved Bob Dylan songs. Later on, I like the Rolling Stones. I love the Rolling Stones. They're just, I have, over so many decades, I like certain songs I really gravitate and I really relate to. But also Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks on the Rumors album. Like, Stevie Nicks, I don't know what I was going through during those years or whatever, but some of her songs just really, really, it makes me dream,
Okay. I guess I know the answer, but favorite surf spot?
Of course, Sunset Beach, just because I put so many hours out at that place, and I love the it's just an unusual wave. It's the way it compresses and the way it lifts and the way it converges, and I know the spot so well. As we said earlier, I started surfing it when I was 13, and pretty much by the early 70s, when they were having all the contests there, like I'd been surfing it almost solid for 10 years. So I should have been able to surf it well. If I couldn't, something was wrong with me. But yeah, Sunset Beach would be probably my favorite spot. And then my second favorite spot in Hawaii is also in Hawaii, and it's on the island of Kauai at Hanalei Bay. As I said earlier in the piece, the one best wave of my life was out there, and it's an unusual place because up to 8 feet, it's fun, up to 8-9 feet, it's a fun wave. It's fun. And then after 10 feet, it morphs into this other creature that just is terrifying. I mean, something happens. It starts dredging, it starts doubling up, it starts sucking out. And then when it gets really big, when there's a reef outside of Hanalei Bay called King's Reef that gets like 30 or 40 feet, big outside deep water wave. And then all that water comes in, and actually Hanalei turns into a reform, a double up. It's like 15-foot double up. It's just incredible. But on its given day, Hanalei, I believe, is the best wave in Hawaii on its given day.
Fantastic. And who's your favorite surfer of all time?
Of all time? Well, Kelly Slater obviously is the best surfer of all time, without a doubt, hands down. Nobody's better than Kelly. But back in the day, before Kelly was around, and back, as I said earlier, in the early 60s, Paul Stroud sure impressed me. He was very impressive.
Okay.
But all time, for sure, Kelly Slater.
11 times world champion, but cannot.
There's never going to be another Kelly. Kelly's like, they broke the mold on him. I remember seeing him. We had a Quicksilver event it was a world contest, an amateur world contest in Nuki in 1986. And Kelly came over with the Florida team, and he was 13 years old, just a young little guy. And his surfing then was already sophisticated at 13 years old. Like the lines he was drawing, his maturity with how he approached the wave, his turns and everything. He was already way advanced at 13 years old.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, he had still pumping it today, so not refusing.
Amazing, isn't it?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, definitely. One of a kind. The last question is a little bit unusual. I would like to know your best relationship advice.
I don't think I'm anyone to give advice on relationships. But I would have to say, if you're not honest, you don't have a hope in hell. And humility really goes a long ways to help in a relationship. So I would say those two traits are very, very important in an ongoing, long-term, solid relationship of any sort.
I totally agree with you. Mr. Hakman, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I look
You're
forward
welcome.
to you very, very soon.
Thank you. Aloha.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!